presents the 9th annual IFBB Night of Champions. From the Town Hall Theater in New York City, some of the rising stars in the sport of professional bodybuilding, including young DiMora, Gary Strydom, David Hawk, and Michael Ashley, as well as some of the veterans of the sport, Robbie Robinson, Tony Pearson, and Bertil Fox. Good evening, everyone. DiMora high above the crowd here in the balcony at the Town Hall Theater. And the man to my right, the recognizable Bob Harris, former Mr. Universe, a man who knows the thing about winning in the sport of bodybuilding. And tonight, winning is going to be a tough chore to do, Bob.
Well, exactly. It's going to be a tough competition tonight, Hugh. What we've seen down on stage are some of the new professionals and a lot of the older professionals still competing and still coming on strong after a number of years. A lot of the guys really inspired me in the beginning of my career.
One of the tougher jobs tonight will be judging, and we had a chance to take a look at some of the pre-judging activity today, and as we look at some of the guys around, the veteran Tony Pearson, who competes about, it appears, every week, or so it seems. We also took a look at one of the bigger men in the competition, Gary Strydom, the Titan Texan, and of course the man right on his heels, Michael Ashley, and of course one of the most densely men ever put together in professional bodybuilding is Berto Fox, and right behind him, Eduardo Kawak. It's a great competition, Bob, and I'll tell you, historically speaking, the Town Hall Theater here in New York City has been very important in the world of professional bodybuilding. Arnold Schwarzenegger won his first Olympia here in 1970, and Bob Harris, you have some fond memories as well.
Well, looking at the Town Hall Theater tonight, it really brings back a flood of memories. The first Mr. America I competed in took place here, and some exciting memories there.
Some great champions have won here. Robbie Robinson has won twice, Chris Dickerson twice, Albert Beckles, and of course, Lee Labrada. And we'll check out the action, which starts in a couple minutes, but the action downstairs is still underway, and we'll get to that after this. Stay tuned for more as the Night of Champions gets underway here on ESPN. Welcome back to the 9th annual Night of Champions. Hugh Malay along with Bob Harris up in the balcony at the Town Hall Theater. Competition set to begin in about a minute, but right now we're going to ask Bob, what's the word on the street in the bodybuilding circles about how important is this competition?
Well, for the past 6 months, Hugh, the bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders have been building in their training for this competition. It's going to gauge what the rankings are for the upcoming professional circuit.
Should be a great competition. Right now, we're going to take a look at some of the participants ready to get underway right now, including John Hnatyschak. If you hear some loud cries for this man during the course of the night, it's because he's from New Jersey. He's a police officer coming off serious back surgery. And then from the USA, Tom Terwilliger. If you see some masks in the crowd, they're Tom Terwilliger masks. He's a local favorite from Long Island. Steve Brisbois, the Canadian, only about 5'3", about 162, a tremendous physique. And, of course, the veteran, the Black Prince himself, Robbie Robinson. He won the first two Night of Champions back in 1977 and 78. The veteran from San Jose as well, Scott Wilson, who shows up at a lot of the top bodybuilding competitions across the country. And then, of course, the women's favorite, Tony Pearson, the Michael Jackson with muscles, one of the busiest bodybuilders around, including individually as well as mixed pairs. Mr. Density himself, Bertil Fox from Britain, will be posing for us shortly. DiMora, talk about rising stars in the sport. This guy is certainly a bodybuilder to keep your eyes on. At age 20, he already won 3 titles in 1986. The veteran, Ali Malla. This guy thinks he's the best and is really keyed up for the event tonight. Eduardo Kawak, one word really applied to Eduardo is potential. He came in 8th place last year, 13th in the 1986 Mr. Olympia, 4 times Mr. Europe, 3 times Mr. World. Ron Love, the Detroit police officer, 6 foot, 235 pounds, will be tough to beat tonight. He was 2nd place last year. Also, the biggest bodybuilder in the competition tonight, out of Belgium, the Belgium national champion, Therri Gunst, comes in at 6'2", 270 pounds. Did I say big? How about the Texas Titan himself, Gary Strydom, formerly lived in Houston, now living in Venice, California. He comes in at 6'2" and 250. He's 1986 national champion. And, of course, the veteran from Canada, Roy Callender, as well as an up-and-comer from the Steel City. Pittsburgh gives us David Hawk out of the USA. And, of course, Mr. Natural, Michael Ashley. Already the competition is underway. We'll begin it with Berto Fox. Bob, a man who's been in the bodybuilding circles. We talk about some heroes of bodybuilding. This man has been a hero to many.
Well, he's a hero to many because of his tremendous mass, especially through the upper body. He's just an extremely thick and strong athlete.
A crowd pleaser as always. You know, you look at a guy that big, Bob, and you have a hard time really pinpointing his weakness, but Bertil's always in the top 5 or 7, but how can he get first place in a competition like that? What must he do?
Well, Bertil needs probably to refine his techniques on stage. He has a tendency to give the crowd what they really like, but as far as from a judging standpoint, gives them basically his routines revolve around most musculars, and he needs to give a little more show, I think, as far as putting together a flowing routine. Can't fault him on the physique, though.
He looks massive tonight. Berto Fox, one of the veterans in tonight's field. A satisfied Berto Fox looks at the crowd, smiles, points, and he'll now leave the stage. In his spare time, Berto likes to bowl. We don't know if the ball hits the lane or not, but that's what Berto likes to do when he unwinds from working out. Next up, it's the man they call the killer, Dave Hawk, out of Pittsburgh, age 24. Dave is really catapulted right onto the scene and is always tough to beat, but in the past 2 years, it's really been his 2 years, Bob.
Yeah, since Dave won the Mr. USA and then subsequently went on to win the World Games in London, he's really made a tremendous impact on the pro scene. Dave sports a fine, symmetrical physique. He's very balanced, good-looking man, and he's a real crowd pleaser, has a tremendously built-up fan base, and has a great future in professional ranks.
When you follow a guy like Berto Fox, who is so massive, and of course Dave looks fantastic, but he's not as big muscularly as Berto, does that sometimes psych you out a little bit when you follow a big guy like Berto?
Well, I'm not sure, because there's basically so many different criteria here involved. The judges are not only looking for mass, but they're looking for the balance of the physique as well, and the presentation of the physique. And so, and the definition, and you take all these factors into consideration, and it could possibly even out. It's really giving the crowd what they like, though.
How about his back, as far as the back chin is always so important?
Well, Dave's got striations through the lower back, which indicate a high level of muscularity, and there you see the intercostal muscles alongside of the abdominal muscles. And when he's squeezing down on himself there, he's trying to show the striations throughout his upper body. And his development and his muscularity seem to be really on today.
The abs look fantastic. It looks like he's just dieted just enough, and the skin is really sucking up. And happy Dave Hawk leaves a very frenzied audience.
Well, they really support this.
Therri Gunst will soon be taking the stage, but we had a chance to talk with Dave Hawk how he got started in bodybuilding.
In a rock band and have long hair. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, basically, most young kids are into rock and roll music, and I'm still into it. I'm into all types of music. I played drums for 12 years. My hair actually used to be straight, went down to my shoulders, and, you know, but see, the thing was, so that I could have my hair that way and the image that I wanted to be a drummer in a rock band, I had to have good grades because I'm family-oriented, and my parents said, you know, if you're going to have this image and you're going to play the drums all the time and do these concerts and things, you have to, you know, do well in school. So I did that, and more or less I played the drums for 12 years, and then I lost 70% of my hearing. So, and I went to an ear specialist, and they said, you know, you have to give up the drums for a while because you're just going to lose your hearing completely if you keep up the heavy pounding, because I used to play 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the thing was then I was into my weight training at the same time. So what happened was I actually moved off into the weight training, cleaned up my image, have a, you know, apple pie kind of guy image.
The Belgium national champion, Therri Gunst. We talk about Big Bob. This is the biggest bodybuilder in New York City tonight. 6'3", 270. He is massive, making his pro debut.
Yeah, this is his pro debut. He's definitely one of the more massive bodybuilders that I've seen. Needs to work some on his refinement, but has a tremendous amount of muscle mass.
When you make your pro debut, what things go through your head? Here's a man who dominated, obviously, over in Belgium and some European circles, but here's a guy who is coming over here with the best of the best.
It's one of those big fish in a little pond and then turning into, you know, coming into the biggest pond as far as competitive bodybuilding is concerned.
So the mass is there. A quick critique of Therri Gunst, if you could, if you were a judge.
He's a huge man, that's for sure. I would be trying to look for a little more sharpness in his physique and a little more refinement.
And we'll come back with more of the 9th annual Night of Champions from New York City after this. We're back at the 9th annual Night of Champions in New York City. The competition continues. We're going to take a look backstage at some of the psyching procedures, the pumping up procedures for some of the competitors. We're going to look at a man, a local favorite by the name of John Hnatyschak, a man who's come back from a vertebrae operation to come back all the way as we see him getting ready for his competition. Already on stage, Ron Love, 6'3", 240, the police officer from Motown. Ron Love, of course, teaches self-defense tactics in the Motor City. A police officer, a guy, I guess, you don't want to mess around with late at night. Ron Love, of course, came in second in his pro debut right here last year at the Night of Champions. A man massively built and has a lot of potential. The guy who's just taking it seriously the past 8 or 10 years, but he looks like he's pretty slow tonight, Bob.
Ron's got an incredible rack of shoulders on him, and his upper body is really muscular. Basically, the improvements that I see that he could certainly use in his physique are to flex his legs when he's on stage, and he's an extremely popular athlete.
Next up for the Night of Champions in New York City, another police officer. We don't know what it is with police officers getting into bodybuilding, but it's certainly a good sign. John Hnatyschak, a man, a local favorite, a New Jersey police officer. A great comeback for John. Bob, you can tell us about that because here's a guy who had a severe car accident. He's coming back all the way.
Well, he was told by his doctors, which is typical of a severe spinal injury, that he would basically never exercise again, and he successfully proved them wrong. I mean, there's a lot of fortitude in that, and here he is back on stage.
We mentioned the 1,500 fans here in the crowd, and of course they're so close in the fact that a lot of these people in the stands train with guys like John and Ron because they're local guys.
Well, what you'll notice is that a lot of the local men will have followings all their own, entire blocks and sections in the audience that'll be kind of rooting sections, in addition to having their normal fans.
The music, as we take a look. John Hnatyschak talking about being a police officer.
Well, I'm one of the biggest guys that's on the job, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm not a big guy, actually. You know, I appear large on stage, but in clothes, I don't look that big. It's good to stay in shape, you know, so just mentally and physically, the whole bit. I mean, it all works hand in hand with the police department.
We're taking a look now at Ali Malla, and here's a guy. If you could please, Bob, fill us in on his, I guess we say, ethnic background, because it's certainly a lot more interesting than your average bodybuilder.
Well, Ali's is Kurdish, and from nomadic, he occurs in nomadic tribes in Lebanon and Iran and Iraq, and he trains presently at World Gym, has a massive physique.
You also mentioned the fact that you have to be confident to be a bodybuilder, but this man just exudes confidence. He lives, eats, and sleeps bodybuilding, and he thinks he's the best.
Yeah, he knows in his mind that he's the best bodybuilder.
Bob, I asked you if you had to pick out a few negative aspects of Ali, what would one or two be?
What Ali needs to work on with his physique is not the muscular mass. It's getting the muscles to flow together more properly. And in his genetic structure, the V taper looking from the front, he has a tremendously thick back, has great legs, great arms, and great body parts. Now he needs to put the work into making the body parts flow.
We're to come back with a couple of the smaller guys in tonight's competition, DiMora, Steve Brisbois, and Tom Terwilliger. We'll take a time out, come back with more of the Night of Champions on ESPN after this. Welcome back to the 9th Annual Night of Champions from New York City. Hugh Malay alongside Bob Harris. And, you know, in the first couple of contestants we just viewed earlier tonight, we saw some of the bigger guys in the world of bodybuilding. But tonight, right now, we're going to take a look at maybe some of the smaller guys, some big little guys, if you will, Bob. But certainly they shouldn't be underestimated by any means. Shane DiMora, a real up-and-comer.
Yeah. Shane, don't let his height deceive you, because he packs an incredible amount of quality muscle, symmetrical muscle on his genetically gifted frame. A young man, 20 years old. I had the opportunity to go down to St. Petersburg, Florida, and speak with him and his family and talk about his dieting, his training, and his philosophies on the sport of bodybuilding. When Shane DiMora first picked up a set of weights, he never would have dreamed what could happen to his 5'3" frame.
I started when I was 13 just to, you know, acquire some size. I was a very short guy, and I figured, you know, being short, if I'm going to be short, I'm going to be a big short guy. So I started working out, and I walked into a gym, and, I progressed very fast.
Today, this young champion has already set a precedent in the sport and is now pursuing additional goals.
I'm the youngest professional in the history of the sport. I turned pro at 19 years old, and I used to joke when I was 16 that I was going to do this, and here it happened. And so I know the potential that I have, and that's why I keep going, because I know I could be the best at this sport.
But to be the best takes a lot of hard work, and Shane knows exactly what to do, especially in the gym.
There's a difference between a workout and an intense workout. A workout is just going through the motions at 60, 70%, going the same place as you did your last workout. An intense workout is pushing it to the limit, to a positive fatigue, each workout, and seeing gains.
Along with his training, Shane credits much of his success to his dieting practices.
I stick to a very basic diet. It's 60% to 65% complex carbohydrates, 30% protein, and 5% is fat, and sometimes less. Sometimes I'm around 4%, 3% fat.
But you won't find much fat on this body, especially when contest time rolls around.
My diet usually ranges anywhere between 8 to 10 weeks before a contest. I try to keep my body weight around 15 to 20 pounds away from contest weight.
Diet and training are essential to a bodybuilder, but Shane also weighs importance on his mental preparation and attitude. And with the great mental awareness that he possesses, not to mention his physique, Shane DiMora is bound to have a great professional bodybuilding career.
And there he is, the 20-year-old sensation, Shane DiMora. And it used to be, you didn't get serious about bodybuilding, at least at this level, until maybe 23, 24. This man has set new standards for teenagers.
He won the, not only the teenage, but the junior and the overall, his class in the nationals in the last year, and has really come on strong in the pros now.
At 5'3", 172 pounds, this man looks so much bigger, and I guess that's because, as you mentioned, his great genetics, but as well as his overall bodybuilding and his training is really, his body is such a beautiful flow, and I know you're a great fan of symmetry, and this man certainly has a lot of it.
Well, bodybuilding is all about illusion. It's the illusion that you strike on stage that matters.
And right now, very happy Shane DiMora, a man who certainly, in years to come, will be a man to watch, and right now, he is the guy to watch. 5'3", 170 pounds, as you mentioned, down in St. Petersburg. He's a guy who said, you can fool yourself in the gym, but you can't fool the judges come competition time, and he's not fooling anyone, and he looks fantastic. Shane DiMora leaves the stage for the yells of 1,500 fans in the Big Apple. Another guy, I guess you'd say, kind of small, Bob, Brisbois of Canada, 5'3", a little lighter than Shane, about 160, 162. But he has a lot going for him as far as symmetry, and he looks fantastic. As you said, the illusion, he looks bigger than he is.
Exactly. Steve is the lightweight world champion from last year, and has a tremendous, nice, symmetrical physique.
Does it come sometimes that some of these shorter guys get too muscular and they maybe look kind of blocky? They have to really guard against that, I would think.
Well, any bodybuilder has to develop their physique in regards to their height and their genetic frame as well.
Out of Canada, Steve Brisbois. Following Shane DiMora, those guys can look themselves, actually each other in the eye, back in the backstage as he gives a big smile to the 1,500 fans on hand. as we said, a very vocal crowd, a knowledgeable crowd here in the Big Apple, Bob.
Yeah, they know what they want, and they certainly cheer for it.
And they're getting it tonight. Some great competition. The music's so important for any bodybuilder. As far as your selection, what do you lean toward as far as when you pose?
I lean toward a modern classic, and usually present a very flowing type of pose routine. A lot of people like a harder rock or a beat that's going to get the audience more involved and more upbeat.
Postmaster. Next up, Tom Terwilliger, of course, a local favorite as well. He pretty much runs onto the stage. The crowd loves this guy. He looks big, a little bigger than the last two guys. Tell us about Tom. Here's a guy that looks extremely hard and big. Any way you could critique him if you were a judge if you were sitting in front?
Tom has a nice symmetrical physique. He's this last year's light heavyweight national champion. Just opened a gym on Long Island in New York, and I think he's going to do real well here.
You mentioned a lot of local guys. You mentioned Mike Ashley and Roger. There's some great local talent here at the Night of Champions, and the fans have really turned on to Tom and his routine here. About that.
And he'll be competing against me, too. I'm proud. Get out of here. Very proud.
Does this make things rough in the family with your brother being a bodybuilder also?
Well, actually it does, and I'll tell you how. Because for a while there, I had food in the refrigerator that was safe. My eggs, my chicken, my fish was all safe for a while he was eating ice cream and red meat. But now it's not safe anymore. I go to the refrigerator, reach for my fish, and it's gone. He's eating better and eating my food. So it's a little dangerous.
Still to come on tonight's 9th Annual Night of Champions, Mike Ashley, Scott Wilson, and Robbie Robinson. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back to the 9th Annual Night of Champions. Bob Paris and Hugh Malay. We still have over half the field to be seen here tonight on ESPN. This segment, Mike Ashley, they call him Mr. Natural. He says he's never used a steroid. 5'8", 200 pounds. He looks fantastic, Bob.
Well, Mike won the IFBB Amateur World Championships, which was drug tested this last year, and successfully passed the test and has a tremendous physique. He's very, very muscular.
8 years in training for Mike Ashley, who originally lived in Queens, now says he's living in Phoenix to stay away from his family because, not because he doesn't love them, because he says it breaks into his bodybuilding style. He also hopes that someday bodybuilding, posing, would be an Olympic sport, and he's hoping to really promote that in the upcoming Olympiads. 27-year-old Mike Ashley, who combines bodybuilding with powerlifting. And he says that's helped him get his great size. Mike is a guy that isn't as big as some of the competitors, but certainly makes up with his muscle thickness and density. We had a chance to talk with Mike Ashley earlier today about his bodybuilding lifestyle.
Well, it's not a matter of just live bodybuilding. I have a well-rounded life. You know, I do other things other than just bodybuilding. But what I'm concerned with when I pursue bodybuilding, if you're going to do it, might as well you do it right or don't do it at all. That means I watch my diet all year round. I'm very consistent with my eating habits. Now, to me, that's not a burden. It just means that when I have to get in shape for a competition, I don't have to make a lot of sacrifices. Like I was weighing 206 when I started my diet, and today I'm about 198. Now, I didn't have to struggle to get in shape for that. When I have a guest appearance, I don't have to starve myself to be in shape for the appearance. So, to me, it's not really a matter of it's all bodybuilding, but it's the fact that I'm pursuing the sport, might as well I do it the right way. And that's the bottom line.
Up next, already in his posing routine, the veteran Scott Wilson out of San Jose, California. We talk about big, he's been big before big was in, Bob.
Well, Scott has a tremendously huge physique. He's wide shoulders, small, narrow waist and hips, and really represents what bodybuilding is all about.
Here's a guy that isn't as young as some of the competitors, but as you mentioned before, you kind of gain knowledge. You're out, you learn more about your physique, you know how to work certain body parts. Here's a man that doesn't appear to have a visible, but certainly the crowd loves it. The crowd-pleasing Scott Wilson leaves the stage, always a big crowd favorite no matter where he poses. Up next, another crowd favorite coming on stage. They call him the Black Prince, Robbie Robinson. He dominated bodybuilding circles the late 70s, early 80s. He's now back on top of his sport, saying he looks and feels as good as he ever has. Bob, you have a kind of a special place in your heart for this guy.
Well, Robbie was a hero of mine when I was beginning the sport of bodybuilding when I was in high school, and he looks tremendous tonight.
You mentioned, you know, Robbie's often been called Mr. Arms. They often really denote his arm development in some magazines. Do sometimes when you work that body part so much that other parts of your body kind of lag behind?
Well, Robbie has tremendous arm development, but I would say his physique is very balanced, which is the ideal of bodybuilding, to bring all of the body parts into a coordinated balance.
We had a chance to talk with Robbie Robinson earlier today, and his story about how he got involved in bodybuilding is kind of unique. He actually got involved as being a Vietnam vet.
I think after I came back from Vietnam, I was really motivated to, like, train. Because a lot of the guys, like, got out there with psychiatrists, and they use that as their therapy. Yeah. And so I use bodybuilding as my therapy. It kept me motivated and stimulated to train as hard as possible to win all the shows as much as I possibly could.
Being in the sport for so long, do you think that helps your chances of winning, or do you think it hurts you? Do you think they're looking for new faces, or do you think they kind of are partial to the oldies but goodies?
No, I think I'm probably one of the old veterans that's, like, really been in there and been able to stay, you know, and come back and compete and place or win. And I still think they're looking for the old guys to come back, because that's really where the real quality muscle is. The younger guys are, like, up and coming, or they're winning, or they're placing or winning the championships, but really what makes the sport of the older guys.
We'll be right back with more of the 9th Annual Night of Champions from New York City, including some guys you don't want to miss, Gary Strydom and Tony Pearson. Welcome back to the 9th Annual Night of Champions. Hugh Malay along with Bob Harris, getting ready for some more competition. We'll take a look at a man that, Gary Strydom, who we talk about DiMora bursting onto the scene as kind of a big little guy, but this guy is big, big, and bigger.
Gary's a huge athlete, and he's made tremendous strides since his win of the Nationals this last year. Coming in, making his pro debut, he's going to do some damage on the pro circuit over the next few years.
We had a chance to check in on Gary and his wife, Elise. That's right. In the bodybuilding world, the name Gary Strydom conjures up one word: massive. And this broad-shouldered South African native has set standards in bodybuilding that others could only dream of.
I'm going to come in over 250 at the Night of the Champions. A lot of people think I'm going to be fat, but it's just a matter of fine-tuning my diet that I had for the Nationals and coming with my muscles much fuller and obviously being more dominant on stage, being over 250.
But this mammoth of a man wasn't always this big.
I came to this country 6 years ago. I was 175 pounds. And I've been up to 285, 290. And I've built this body purely on using brain power, not only muscles.
Gary has focused his goals both mentally and physically, making the necessary changes in the process.
And it comes with time. You can't rush it. You got to progressively improve. You can't make drastic changes too fast because you're pushing too hard and you end up injuring yourself. So there's a lot of safety involved.
And these changes have helped him put his overall bodybuilding lifestyle together.
And I think with me, it's putting all those things together: diet, nutrition, going to the gym, training, dedication, total dedication.
But even total dedication was not enough for Gary until he met his wife, Elise, who now plays a large role in his career.
She's now become more than a ladies coordinator. She's now my life coordinator. She organizes all the food and nutrition. She handles all my business, negotiations.
At first, though, Elise had to find out what bodybuilding and Gary were really all about.
And I started looking at the magazines with him and learning what he is all about. And it was even more of a challenge to me working with professional athletes to get in with the sport to where they are extremists.
But what it's really about when it comes down to contest time is that Gary Strydom has to go it alone. And in this, he is confident.
I'm doing everything that I can possibly do to win. I'm so focused on my diet and my training, on getting my rest and presentation, tanning, that I'm only doing my best. And whatever the result, I'm going to be happy with.
Here he is, Mr. Big, Gary Strydom, 6'1", 250 pounds. Between competition, he comes in about 270 or thereabouts. They say there's no such thing as too big in bodybuilding. This man is not only big, but tremendously defined, and everything seems to fit.
He has nice shape to his physique. The shoulders are real round, fullness to the chest, great abs.
Every couple of years in bodybuilding, there seems to be one man who is really burst on the scene and predicted for greatness. This is the hottest man in bodybuilding right now, Gary Strydom. He loves to pose. He works so hard at the gym. And one thing is you see him shake his quadricep right there. Big guys have trouble putting on mass on their legs, but this guy is just huge through the legs.
Gary's got tremendous thigh development.
As you see him, he loves the crowd, and they love him. 1,500 strong here. He's giving them their money's worth and then some. Gary Strydom, the national champion last year down in Atlanta. The crowd going crazy as Strydom giving them just a little bit extra before he leaves the stage. Certainly one of the favorites. Speaking of crowd favorites, and certainly one of the favorites of the ladies, they call him Michael Jackson with muscles. Look at a tremendous lat development in the back, a great back. Tony Pearson, who's made his mark in bodybuilding for years, was certainly a man who actually was better when he was a woman by his side. The world mixed pairs, five-time champion, Tony Pearson.
Yeah, but don't take for granted the tremendous V taper that Tony has. And look at that vacuum, the rib cage pulled up inside, punching down into the abdominals.
You see Tony compete so much. He's in so many competitions. How hard is it to stay as hard as he looks all the time in maybe 10, 12 competitions a year? And how tough is it?
Well, Tony stay as close to condition as possible. And today's modern professional and keep their body fat down as low as possible most of the year round. The days of bulking up and cutting down are pretty much long gone.
We talked about his upper body development. Are his legs up to par, or do you feel maybe if there's a weakness for Tony, that might be?
Well, Tony has very nice thigh development. He has a slight weakness through the calves, but his other body parts tend to balance that out.
Theatrically speaking, this guy puts on as good a show posing as anybody around.
He's a real crowd favorite.
Loves the music and turns on the crowd. They love to see guys like this and John Brown come out, and they really do it up big. Back with more than after this. Two competitors tonight here. Stadium, Roy Callender. We talk about veterans, Bob, and this guy's been around a long time.
He won his Mr. Universe title several years ago. He's in his early 40s and keeps coming back into professional bodybuilding. Placed very high in the Mr. Olympia straight.
This guy does look fantastic. We talk about you're never too old to compete in bodybuilding. I guess Mr. Beckles, of course, attest to that. He's in his high 50s, and Roy looks probably as good as he did today as like maybe 20 years ago.
Well, the male physique matures into 35 and 40. So where most people think they're going downhill, the bodybuilder is actually coming into his own.
critiquing Roy quickly. He looks extremely massive and very big and very muscular.
Quite honestly, I've seen Roy be in better condition. I think he's just coming back into training at this point. He's massive and muscular, but have seen him be a little bit better.
Dieting before the competition, possibly he really didn't stress that as much as he should.
It's hard to say what factor was involved. There's so many variables.
Roy Callender leaves the stage. There's a new Lebanese lion on the bodybuilding scene. It is Eduardo Kawak. This man dominated the European circuit, 3 times Mr. World, 4 times Mr. Europe. A tremendously gifted athlete as far as genetics go. This man seems to have all the body parts, Bob.
As far as a massive, square, and thick physique, this man is a genetic natural. He's, look at the tremendous muscle density that he has.
A lot of controversy about working out with lightweight, working out with big weight. Eduardo says, I work out with big weight, 120, 140-pound dumbbells, and he goes, I don't trust anyone to help me with them. I'll take care of it myself. He works out with extremely heavy weight, as you can tell by his thickness.
Well, his thickness is very apparent. The problem he's had in the IFBB contest has been coming in quite as muscular as the judging criteria requires. And I think he's going to need to make some adjustments in his dietary habits, coming down to the competition, trimming down the body fat, to come in ripped enough, in other words, body fat-free enough to please this current crop of judges.
12 years ago, age 16, he was a 5'8", 144-pound weakling. He now poses at 5'9", 216. The man knows what to do to put on muscle mass. But right now, as Bob just pointed out, maybe some dietary considerations should be taken into effect.
It's all in the refinement.
Eduardo Kawak, age 28. Many people predict great things for this guy, and certainly genetically, he's been given a lot. Backstage, guys are getting pumped up for that final pose down, as we'll find out who is the champion at the Night of Champions. We'll be right back with the final pose down and much more after this. The favorite portion for the crowd is the pose down. Gary Strydom, Mike Ashley, Ron Love, John Hnatyschak, and Robbie Robinson. The top 5 going at it. Bob, and I'll tell you, this is where many competitions are won and lost, as Gary Strydom trying to show the crowd exactly what he's made of. We saw it earlier, but now he goes against everybody head-to-head.
Exactly. The 3 rounds of judging are over. This lends an exciting conclusion to the competition for the crowd, and listen to those fans going wild. It's the bodybuilders are basically trying to get in their best shots now, and hitting a lot of most musculars and comparing each other to, you know, running around the stage trying to get next to who they think has the advantage.
So you want to get next to the guy who you feel has the best shot of beating you, or do you want to look good against somebody who might not be as tough?
Ideally, you should have everyone come to you.
Robbie Robinson, the Black Prince, back to the top. Looking good. Gary Strydom, Mike Ashley, they're going at it tooth and toenail. The crowd is going crazy. 1,500 fans. As I said, they're very close competitors. They could probably reach out and touch Strydom and Ashley if they wanted to. The crowd is really into this right now.
What a tremendous thing this is for the fans to be so close on stage.
Ron Love showing what he's made of. The ab shot, the quad shot. We're showing everything you got right here, and it's really the best thing you can do is what Gary Strydom's doing. Just kind of stand there and you realize the guys are just coming to you and showing you what it's all about.
Well, this is one of the most taxing parts of the entire contest.
And then the camaraderie. I guess, although you've gone against these guys all day, you want to beat them, but at the end, it's like, we made it, we're a group. Right now, we're going to see who gets it. Robbie Robinson, a very elated Robbie Robinson, will get 5th place tonight. $1,000 for Robbie Robinson. More importantly, I think he's showing people that the Black Prince is back.
Now we go on to 4th place. A check for $2,000.
Coming in 4th place, Hnatyschak, a local favorite. If you hear the crowd, they're booing very loudly. John, a local favorite, and many people thought that he would place higher tonight. He seems to be happy. He gets $2,000 for coming in 4th. Now it's down to the top 3. Ashley Love and Strydom. Ron Love, a disappointed Motown man. Ron Love came in 2nd last year, and his pro debut comes in 3rd tonight, and seems a little bit more disappointed than the other 2 competitors.
Well, it's so difficult. I mean, the thing that separates the top people is so thin.
Now the final countdown. Therri Gunst is the champion at the Night of Champions as Michael Ashley gets announced that he is indeed 2nd place. Therri Gunst gives that exuberant fist in the air. He is a happy guy. One good reason for that, of course, despite the medal and the plaque, 10 grand in his hand.
It's a big payoff night for Gary.
And it's important that he's setting the pace so much, Bob, that he's winning. He's not coming in 2nd or 3rd. He's winning these events. He's in the Nationals and now the Night of Champions.
Exactly. Gary's a tremendous champion. He should be real proud of the improvement that he's making in his physique. Everyone on stage should be proud of their physique.
So we're giving the 1st place ribbon to Gary. He's looking for the check, I'm sure, but that'll come as well. Gary Strydom, the champion at the Night of Champions in New York City. The plaque, the check, and the medal. And we'll be back with more. We'll wrap it all up after this. A tremendous night of competition at the Night of Champions. Bob, and I'll tell you, when you see Gary Strydom giving that jubilant fist in the air, you realize the emotional turmoil these guys just go through, not only tonight and yesterday, but 3 to 4, 5 weeks going up into the competition.
Oh, it's a tremendous feeling to be standing there on stage and winning, and it's a great competition to have won.
Our cameras caught up with the winner, Gary Strydom, and his lovely wife, Elise, backstage.
Okay, when I talked to you this afternoon, you told me you were going to win it, and you did it. How do you feel?
Well, that's not correct. I didn't say I was going to win it. I said I was going to make a good showing, and I think I made a good showing for my pro debut, and that's very important to make a change from show to show, and I felt like I made a lot of improvement. And the victory, of course, is sweet, and there's an old saying, they say money that's won is much sweeter than money that's earned. So that money is sweet, but it's just really, you got to love the sport, you got to understand the sport, and for me, it's just a way of living for myself and my wife. We do everything together, and I love the sport of bodybuilding, and I just love the people that I meet, and I'm real high in life, that's all.
Where do you go from here?
Well, right now I go back, I collect my thoughts, and kind of just draw from the winnings and the victory, and get the publicity that I need to get, and go on to the next one, which is Olympia, and I'm going to train for that one, and, you know, that's what you got to do, take one step at a time. That's very important. You don't think too far ahead in this sport. It's something that comes very progressive, and it's like an investment. You make an investment in your body every time you push a weight, and to me, it just takes time and patience, and that's why I think I've been successful, because of that.
Okay, that's where you're going in a few months. Where are you going to go eat tonight?
Well, anyway, matter of fact, I'm not going to go too crazy, because we diet so long. I've been dieting for 9 months, and to diet and then suddenly go crazy and eat, and it really doesn't make you feel all that well. So I'll eat a medium square meal, though. No, none of these peeled potatoes and stuff like that, egg whites. Just a regular meal. So basically just a restaurant.
Well, congratulations and good luck to you at the Olympia. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
As you can see downstairs, Gary Strydom is one happy guy as he embarks on a very serious and probably very successful professional campaign, winning tonight's Night of Champions and looking ahead to the Olympia. And the man on my right is ready to get back to some serious competition. Bob Paris says he will end his 18 months of hibernation, so to speak. You're ready to get back and get serious.
Well, I was away from competitive bodybuilding for a couple of years, and then the last year have been back into training, have accomplished some goals for myself with pursuing my education as an actor, and now I am going back into the upcoming Niagara Falls Grand Prix, and then the Grand Prix in Chicago after that, and then the Mr. Olympia in September.
And a night like tonight, when you see the crowd, the competition, I would imagine your competitive juices are really flowing right now.
I'm very, very motivated.
It has been a tremendous day and night here in New York City at the Night of Champions. We hope you enjoyed. I know Bob and I did. And we'll see you back here next year on ESPN, the Night of Champions. Until then, good night.